Welcome back to the voice and visuals of Amber. Episode 24. And again today we have grammar in action. And as I had done last time, we are going to deal with time and tense along with voice. And that has always been my suggestion to all teachers and all students. That when we take up time or when we take up the various tense forms, we must also at the same time talk about active and passive voice. So today we take up the present continuous tense sentences. Let's read the first one. Paridhi is sleeping, now, at the moment. So when do we use the present continuous? The present continuous is formed by the helping verb, that is, am, are, was, were, plus the present participle, that is the action word plus ing. The action word plus ing is the present participle. And together, the helping verb is plus the present participle, they make what is called the two-part action verb. Is sleeping. I am teaching English grammar. You are listening to me. So, the helping verb plus the present participle, together they form the two-part action verb. So Paridhi is sleeping, and we use the present continuous tense to talk about an action which is going on at the same time as the communication. So right now I am communicating, I am talking to you. So at this point of time, while I communicate with you, Paridhi is sleeping. It could be Paridhi is sleeping now, yes, just now when I am speaking to you, or at the moment. So Paridhi is sleeping now at the moment. And here there is no object. Paridhi is sleeping. What? Whom? No object. So is sleeping is therefore an intransitive verb. The subject is the doer, but then the action is not being transferred from the subject to any receiver or object. So we can have this sort of a sentence only in the active voice. We cannot have a passive voice of a sentence which has an intransitive verb. That is a verb, an action verb without an object. So Paridhi is sleeping now, or Paridhi is sleeping at the moment. Let's see the second one. Vastav is working in a famous law firm. Now that does not mean that the action is going on at the moment or while the communication is going on. Vastav's working in a famous law firm is also going on. No. So the second situation, the very common second situation where we use the present continuous tense is to talk about an action which is going on these days, which is going on presently these days, nowadays. It is not totally permanent. The situation may change. Vastav is working in a famous law firm these days, but then in the near future he may start his own legal firm. So present continuous is also used, is working. Is the helping verb and working is your present participle. Together they form the two-part action verb, is working. And the present continuous is used to talk about an action or a situation or an event which is going on these days. It is not exactly a routine kind of, it is not a habit, it's these days. Okay? So it's not as permanent or as universal maybe for a particular person, as a habit or a routine. For that, remember, last time we had spoken of the simple present tense. So again, here this is also an intransitive verb. Vastav is working what? Makes no sense. Vastav is working whom? Makes no sense. So is working is an intransitive verb. So again, this can only be expressed in the active voice and not in the passive voice. So active voice sentences can be changed into passive voice only when the subject is the doer and the sentence has a transitive verb. That means it has an action verb denoting the action done by the subject or the doer and which is affecting somebody or something else. Or something else is the result of the action. So which we can very commonly say there has to be some sort of a receiver of the action for the verb to be transitive. So this is also an intransitive verb here. Now let's move on to some sentences having transitive verbs. And if they have transitive verbs, then we can change them from the active voice sentences to passive voice. Let's see the first one over here. Abhilasha is preparing a project report. So she is preparing. Again, is the helping verb, preparing the present participle. Together they form the two-part action verb. But here, Abhilasha is preparing what? A project report. So the action of preparing, Abhilasha is preparing, is there is a result of that action, and that is a project report. So the action is affecting something, that is project report. So project report is the object of the action verb is preparing. So is preparing is a transitive verb. So yes, we can change it into passive voice, and the passive voice would be a project report is being prepared. So you have the past participle over here, prepared, the third form of the verb that we often or commonly we say V3, prepare, prepared, prepared. So is being. Why the being? Because it is in the continuous tense, the present continuous. Is being prepared, the past participle. So a project report is being prepared by Abhilasha. So this is the passive voice. Let's have another sentence now. Ansh and Aviral are learning German. Ansh and Aviral are learning German. So the action is again a two-part action verb. Are learning. Are is the helping verb and learning is the present participle. Okay, and therefore the two together form the two-part action verb. Ansh and Aviral are learning German. Now are learning what? German. So are learning therefore is a transitive verb over here. So we can have a passive voice construction of the same sentence without changing its meaning. German is being learned by Ansh and Aviral. Or German is being learned by Ansh and Aviral. So passive voice. So the subject therefore in the passive voice does not remain the doer. Alright? The German is being learned. Here in the active voice it is the subject which is active. The subject is the doer of the action. Here, the doer is not the subject. Okay? So that is how we change the active voice sentences into their corresponding passive voice. So, before we move on to the next session, that is the third kind of present tense, the third form of the present tense, that is the present perfect tense, we will now just have a very quick look at when to use passive voice. We should not just use passive voice, like that. An examination question at times can be somewhat impractical. It can be unrealistic. And you may be asked to change an active voice sentence into passive voice, whereas in actual writing or speaking, that particular sentence need not have been changed into passive voice, even though the sentence has a transitive verb. So let's see, when do we use the passive voice? The action is more important than the doer. The action is more important. That means the focus is not on the doer. So the doer is not the subject, but the action becomes the subject. Now, if we see over here, Abhilasha is preparing a project report. Now, if the importance is being given to the project report, then maybe we are talking about a very important specific project report. Then we can change this into the passive voice. So we can say, yes, that project report is being prepared by Abhilasha. So where is that project report? Alright, the boss may ask his deputy, and he will say, that project report is being prepared, sir, by Abhilasha. Okay. Alright. It will be handed over tomorrow. So Abhilasha is not as important as the project report, which actually receives the focus. Okay? So when we have the action, alright, that is, the action is more important than the doer. That is, the preparation of a particular project report is more important than the doer, then we use the passive voice. Now let's look at this. Ansh and Aviral are learning German. So here the focus is on the doer, the subject, Ansh and Aviral. The doers therefore are the subject, Ansh and Aviral. But German is being learned by Ansh and Aviral. This can be an examination question, that's about all. Otherwise it looks very, very, stilted. German is being learned by Ansh and Aviral. As if, German is important over here. But no, what is more important is who is learning German. So Ansh and Aviral are learning German. So in this particular case, I would recommend that this sentence need not be written or spoken, in the passive voice. Then the second case is the doer of an action is understood. For example, that notorious criminal was arrested. The police arrested the thieves. Now who will arrest the thieves? The police. It's understood. Therefore, that particular sentence can be in the passive voice. That is, the thief, the notorious thief was arrested by the local police. Or we may not even use by the police, because we state it in the passive voice, but then the doer is understood, because the work of arresting somebody can be done only by the police, not by you and I. Okay? So, and the third is people in general are referred to as, here is the doer of an action is not known. Somebody has stolen my pen. Now you don't know who. So therefore, very easily it can be converted into the passive voice. My pen has been stolen. No need to even add by somebody, because that somebody is unknown. So, my pen has been stolen. Okay? People in general are referred to as doers. Then also we may use the passive voice. For example, the tickets can be bought online. By whom? Obviously by anyone, by the people. So, people can buy the ticket online. No need to say that in the active voice, because it's, again, people in general are being referred to as the doers. So anybody can buy that particular, the tickets online, the people in general. So the tickets may be bought online. Alright? Process involving steps. How do we prepare tea? So first, water is measured in cups, and as many cups as there would be people to have the tea. So first water is measured in cups, then poured. Then it is poured in a container and is boiled. Alright, so again, passive voice. Why? Because it is the process of making tea, and which is very common or very almost universal. Many people would prepare tea in exactly the same way, following the same process, involving the same steps. And then when students actually write, they prepare their practical notebooks and they record observations of the practicals they are doing. Say for example, the separation, finding out, identifying the salts, in a mixture of salts, and then to find out the acid radical or a basic radical. For example, the one that I got in my plus 2 was a mixture of, I think it was magnesium sulfate and the common salt, that is sodium chloride. So we were told, sulfate is there and sodium is there, now just find out the other radicals. So when we note down what we do or what we have done in our practicals, so scientific or very formal writing, so there again it is the passive voice which is used. But then remember, passive voice should not be used indiscriminately. An examination question may ask you to change something like this into passive. Ansh and Aviral are learning German. So German is being learned by Ansh and Aviral. Now I think this is very obvious that the doer is more important over here. So in our real life, we need not talk about this particular action being done by Ansh and Aviral in the passive voice. Active voice is always much more natural, and in most of the cases, I think 90% of the cases, we speak using active voice sentences, we write active voice sentences. So I will come to this a little later, in the subsequent sessions. But before that, next class I'm going to take a break from grammar and action, and we'll move into language and action or language matters, as one of the viewers requested me to talk about some literary devices. So the next class, that is the voice and visuals of number 25, will deal with literary devices or poetic devices, or often called also figures of speech. So see you then. Bye bye. Take care.